You can go ahead, Sheikh.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma lakal hamdu hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fihi. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم عليه وصل على آله وصحابته والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Once again we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in humble supplication to bless us in this endeavor of seeking knowledge and transmitting knowledge. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Ya Allah, teach us that which is beneficial for us and bless us in the knowledge you have granted us and increase our knowledge. It's my honor and pleasure today to introduce to you an Allama, one of the greatest mentors of this century, tireless researcher and scholar of exemplary morals. And of course, his son Muhammad Zahid, Sheikh Muhammad Zahid, is with us in Toronto. May Allah bless them all. The whole family is a Shajara Tayyiba, a solid, a robust tree, with branches shooting high, bearing fruits in all seasons. So may Allah continue to bless the family. Thanks to the esteemed Allama, their father, the patriarch. So before doing that, I would like to remind myself and everyone listening to me to continue praying for our brothers in Gaza, Palestine, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, everywhere, wherever they are oppressed and persecuted. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them relief. May Allah give them victory over the oppressors. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turn the tables against the aggressors. Now, coming back to our topic, inshallah, we have a lot to say about this, but because of the limited time, I will try to give you a gist, something glimpses of this great scholar of this century. And really, when I was delving, because I knew I had some of his works collected earlier and I studied them, but as I was researching deeper into his biography and his great works and contributions, I lamented the fact that I could not sit at the feet of this great Allama and learn from him, because we can learn many things, intellectual things, from so many sources, from reading books, but there are things that we need to learn from accomplished scholars we have who have the ijaza and the isnad going back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they have embodied the akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, akhlaq of the righteous Salafus Salih. So he is one of them, definitely. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us, honor us to love him and love scholars like him, and of course love about Rasulullah sallallahu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all those who love Allah and love actions that would take us closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will focus on milieu and origins. Of course, I am not going to go into the milieu, political, social, cultural, and intellectual. We have been repeating it because it comes from the same milieu of uh, colonialism and the aftermath of colonialism, the disastrous effect of colonialism uh, inflicted on the Muslim country, continue to do that. What we see in front of our eyes is the colonization. You create colonies in the Muslim world and they call it a state. Actually, not there's terrorist states. Origins, educational career, legacy. I would. This is one of the best thing I could describe this scholar. He was a mentor of mentors, an outstanding mentor, muaddib, man of adab. He wrote extensively. All of his works have this thrust of bringing out the akhlaq and the adab of the pious Salafus Salih and the ulama who emulated them, and of course testimonials of the great scholars about this great Allama and some of the wisdom that he has left for us. Sheikh Abdul Fattah bin Muhammad bin Bashir Abu Ghuda was a distinguished scholar, researcher, is a scholar of hadith, authored number of books, over 70 books, and I would call him mentor of mentors, Mu'addibul Ulama. He was born in Aleppo, Syria in 1917. His family was a modest and faithful household. Of course, they had their own business. You know, it reminded me when I study him, it reminded me of Al Imam Al Alam Abu Hanifa Rahmullah radiallahu anhu. Because Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu had this trade. He was seller of clothes and textiles. In the case of Allama Sheikh Abdul Fattah, he was also, he comes from the family flourishing business, weaving, tailoring, you name it, textile business they had. So both his father and grandfather had textile business. Sheikh Abdul Fattah says that his father was keen to raise his son with a love for the Book of Allah. It's a family milieu saturated with piety, God consciousness, Quran, dhikr. And also the father, even though he's not a scholar, he loved the company of scholars and righteous people. So from his young age, uh, Abu Fatah, Sheikh Abu Ghudda became known for his good manners and excellent recitation of the Quran. Of course, that is not the way many of the children are raised today. So when we study the biography, the seerah of the profile and the legacy of scholars like him, we need to emulate this thing and we need to impart, try to impart as much as possible. And I would urge everyone, now his son Muhammad Zahid Abu Ghudda, may Allah, protect him, he is embarking on the project of translating these precious works of his father, and some of them already out. So you should acquire this, especially books on morals and manners, bin Adab al-Islam. So his life and career was shaped by various influences. Of course, his family, his father, and then he had hundreds, more than 100 teachers and scholars because his thirst for knowledge took him everywhere, all over, virtually all over the Muslim world. He went to India several times, and his son told me that when he would go to India and come back, you could see the face with light, he was really, he loved the scholars from India. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also inspire us to love such great scholars who have the best of morals and manners, because Muhammad Zahid told me, that his father was so impressed by the excellent morals and manners of the scholars from India that he sat and he's learned. And of course, He was an Allama there also before going there. But this is the quality of these scholars. They want to benefit from everybody. So his father, of course, he learned from his father his passion for religion, his commitment to following the path of Siratul Mustaqim. His father's profound love for the Quran, respect for knowledge and scholars, and appreciation for self reliance. This is very, very important. One of the things that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam implanted, made sure that the Sahaba were conditioned to be self reliant so that they don't become parasites on others. So, of course, you have the beautiful example of a person coming asking Rasulullah for her sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him to bring a rope from his house, and then he told him, "Look, go to the wood and gather firewood and sell it." And the man did that, the Sahabi did that, and then of course the Prophet ﷺ taught in this way a practical example for people to be self-reliant. And of course you will hear the Sahaba, Ridwanullah alayhim, even if they were traveling on a camel or a horse, if their stick or staff were dropped, they would not they would dismount and pick it themselves. They don't want to be dependent on others. This is a great trait that the grandfather, father, and grandfather of Allama Abu Ghuda implanted in his children, not just Allama Abu Ghuda. So because he says a craft or skill is your safeguard against poverty. I would urge everyone studying, whether training to become alim or qari or whatever. On top of that, you should have a trade or a skill so that we don't depend, because scholars will face when they perform their duty of commanding good and forbidding evil, they may be denied in the support from the authorities. So how do they sustain themselves? Of course, when you have a trade or a skill or a craft, you can protect yourself against the unforeseen circumstances. So, heeding their advice, Sheikh Abu Ghuda learned tailoring and weaving, inshallah, the trade of the family. So, he began his education at a private Arabic Islamic school, attending from first to fourth grade. He then moved to the Sheikh, one of the great famous school, Ali Khatib School in Aleppo, where he studied the Quran and the art of penmanship. Of course, he mastered it actually. Everything he focused on, he excelled in it, because this is a scholar who doesn't believe in wasting even a minute. He was always carrying books around, always, always, whether he is going to the doctor, whether he's traveling in car, he would have a book always, make sure, and he's always reading. So mal mehbara ila al maqbara, the slogan of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmullah, so radiallahu anhu, that we would carry the import until we hit the grave. So this is the kind of thing he has conditioned himself. He enrolled in Khusrawiya school founded by Khusro Pasha. This is a famous school. It's now Sharia Secondary School is known. Studied there from 1936 to 1942. After completing his secondary education, he went on to study in Al Azhar University. He earned his ijaza in 1948 from there, and then he further studies. He enrolled in the College of Arabic Language, graduating in 1950. So here is a scholar, he is a master of Arabic literature as well. He's a poet. He wrote poems. And he was so well trained in the Arabic idioms and grammar and things like that. And I read his encounter with a so-called muhaddith, even who studied from books actually. He didn't have any sheikh. I don't want to take his name, but he ventures on making tasheeh, authentication, and things like that. So, of course, there was this kind of a debate between the two. So, of course, then Abu Ghudda put him to test. So, to read something, and then he read it wrongly. And of course, he made him realize that he should learn from the ulama, not from the books. This is an advice for everyone. So, innamal ilmu bitta'allum. You want to acquire Islamic knowledge? You cannot get it from internet, from books. You need to sit at the feet of scholars and study. Otherwise, you will make big mistakes, and you will see this all the time. I studied Orientalists and their works, and their works are full of this kind of, you know, major errors because their knowledge is acquired from books. Unfortunately, many of those who go and earn their PhDs from these universities, they end up, even though they call themselves PhD in Islamic Sharia, PhD in the Quran, PhD in Hadith, PhD in Tasawwuf, but because they lack that foundation, alat, when we were studying for the alim course after graduating, in the alim program, we were told you are not alims yet. You have been given the keys. And of course, if without the keys you cannot understand, analyze the book. So, unfortunately, these so called graduates, many of them don't have the keys. So, how can they open? How can they? So, that was the, the lesson that, from this encounter of these, you know, Allama Abu Ghudda with the person who attacked him, criticized him, he brought him to his knees actually, and it's a really very interesting dialogue I read. So upon his return to Syria in 1951, he wrote an exam, Ministry of Education, Islamic Education competition, and he was the top, passed the top in the in that exam. Following 11 years, next 11 years, taught Islamic education in Aleppo's high schools, contributed textbook development. He, of course, prepared the textbook and curriculum for that, and instructed at the Shabaniya and Sharia Secondary School, Khosrawiya, where he was once a student. So he studied there and became a teacher there. He taught fiqh subjects at Damascus University, became a professor there, and he contributed to one of the greatest projects of this century, Islamic fiqh encyclopedia, al-Mawsu al-Fiqhiyya, and worked at Imam. So he contributed, he's the one who, Mawjam fiqh Ibn Hazm, rahmahullah, and he's the one who contributed and edited that. And then, of course, he worked at Imam Muhammad bin Saud University from 1965 to 1988, where he mentored great graduate students and developed curricula. Of course, I have read, the shahadat and the eulogy of his students who graduated, who accompanied him, and really, really, I was impressed. And that's why I really feel, I could not control my tears that I missed the opportunity to study under this great scholar, of this century. He also taught in Sudan and India, of course, various universities. He participated in Islamic conferences, returned to Syria in 1995. after he had been away for 17 years. So he continued his religious and scholarly dawah work in Syria after return. Then, of course, he would go back also to Saudi Arabia, where he will be dying there in Riyadh. Yeah. May Allah have mercy on him. Now, one of the thing I want to, the most important aspect, there are so many scholars with so many intellectual achievements, but in the case, you know, intellectual thing is very, very important. And this definitely, this scholar was a researcher, highly academically trained, intellectual. But what impressed me most about him is that he was a mentor. How he became a mentor of mentors. So he had mentors, scholars who were really mentors. But, how did he reach this status? Reason is this: Allama had insatiable thirst for knowledge. Today we have so many of these so-called, students and alims. They claim themselves alim with high titles and shahadat, but they waste so much time in frivolity, sports, even games and whatever, and less time on seeking knowledge from the right sources. Not so in the case of Allama Abu Ghuda. His thirst for knowledge drove him, compelled him to study under a great number of scholars from all over the Muslim world. Because, one of the things some scholars have is, you know, I remember one person saying that knowledge is only in Yemen or Morocco or Mauritania. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. Knowledge is everywhere. Ulama, we have ulama all over the Muslim world, and each of them we can benefit from them. When you have little knowledge, they make this kind of statements. This is what we can learn from Allama Abu Ghudda, because he learned under a great number of scholars, not just one scholar. Yes, one scholar may be outstanding, but you should go and study from others as well. This is what our Imams taught us. Look at Imam Malik, look at Imam Abu Hanifa, look at Imam Shafi, look at Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. They did not limit to one or two scholars. Wherever they found a scholar and they could learn from him something, they studied. So when Imam Shafi goes to Egypt, he rushes to the grave of Layth ibn Sa'd. He was, even according to Imam Shafi, is greater scholar than Imam Malik himself, his own teacher and mentor. I'm sorry I missed you. This is exactly the feeling I got. I am sorry I missed this great scholar. I missed the opportunity to learn from him. So he wrote, I have been fortunate to learn, because, he had to say this in replying to that scholar who vilified him. He attacked him because he did not prescribe his book as a curriculum, as a textbook in the university program, because he did not realize, he knew that this person did not qualify to write this kind of a text, so he could not recommend it, and because of that he was attacked. So he replies, one of his Shubhat, Raddu Shubhat. I have been fortunate to learn from about 100 scholars across Aleppo, the Levant, Makkah, Medina, Egypt, India, Pakistan, Morocco, and beyond. Each offer a distinct style and philosophy. Everybody has a mashrab. They call it mashrab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala distributed these gifts. He gave Imam Abu Hanifa something. So Imam Shafi appreciates it. Imam Shafi said, if you want to be a faqih, study deeply the work of Imam Abu Hanifa. Because al-fuqaha alatun ala Abi Hanifa. Fuqaha are parasites, dependent on Imam Abu Hanifa. But of course, if you want learn Arabic literature, Imam Shafi used to be best excellent in it. Of course, he is a faqih, he is a muhaddis also, yes, but even more so, he is also a man of literature. He spent years with Bedouins to master the pristine Arabic. So the same way, Imam Malik has something unique about him. Imam Ahmad has something unique about him. He is a great muhaddis. So this scholar knows, that he wants to benefit from everybody. Like a bee goes to different flowers, not just one, and then produces that honey. So here is a scholar who drank deep from all these flowers, nectar, and then put it out as literature, 70 works actually. I hope most of them come to light into English, appear in English, and I think they are focusing on that, his sons and children and grandchildren. Although he respected all his teachers, he aimed to observe and emulate their morals and manners. Why I am focusing this? Because this is what is most important. It is missing in me. It is missing in many of our scholars. So we need to emphasize this aspect from the scholar. One of his most influential mentors was Sheikh Isa al-Bayanuni, who taught knowledge and qualities like asceticism, humility, and love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah inspire us to love Rasulullah, to love Allah, to love Rasulullah, to love those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and give us the action that would bring us closer to the love of Allah. So this love of the Prophet is one of the most impressive thing in the scholar that he learned from. The sign of it is when tears mix on cheeks, you can tell who cries sincerely from who is a pretender. So from this teacher, his teacher imparted in his actions and words, instilled that love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another mentor he learned from is Sheikh Ibrahim al-Salqini, a very pious man who had a blessed life. 100 years he lived, nearly 100 years. And to be in his presence is inspiring, often moving him, his lessons, moving people, students to tears. So very, very important. One of the sign of qasawatul qalb, heart become hardened like rock, is disease. Spiritual heart, we need to guard it, we need to protect it. And the question was asked to Imam Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu anhu, and he described one of the signs that heart is hardened. Tears doesn't come when we read and listen to the Quran, or you make dhikr. When you think of death, that's a sign heart is becoming dead. Of course, when you talk about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, in the case of Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu, it would shake him, tremble. He will tremble, to quote Rasulullah, says the narration of Rasulullah. So this was the feeling he had for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in the case of his teachers, they embodied this kind of traits of the Salafus Salih. Another mentor was scholar Sheikh Muhammad Raghib Tabbah. From Abu Huda, learned immensely. Of course, there are so many other scholars. He was gentle and humble, living a simple life. But when it came to knowledge, he was like an ocean, vast and deep. And also, he was very pious, a virtuous person, leading a very simple life. Another scholar who taught him courage and steadfastness was Imam Sheikh Muhammad Zahid al-Kawsari. I think that's why, his son, he called his son Muhammad Zahid. I knew now. It never occurred to me now because he loved his teacher, his mentor. Of course, although he met him later in his life, and he really edited and worked on his books also. So Abdul Fattah admired him for his knowledge, understanding, eloquence, and leadership skills. Remarkable qualities of Kawthari earned him respect from scholars in India, Pakistan, the Levant, Sham, Morocco, even Al-Azhar. He sought refuge in Egypt after the Ataturk secular revolution of Ataturk. After expressing, of course, his studies under the Mustafa Zarqa and his father, the outstanding jurists, Hanafi jurists of the century, actually, I would call them. And I'm impressed by the achievements of Mustafa Zarqa. And of course, these are grandfather, father, and son, a silsila, as you know, Tantawi described. Is silsila to Zahab actually of fiqh. And of course, he was a student, benefited greatly, not only benefited, and I have pictures of him accompanying a sheikh and Abu Udda, even though he's a Allama, he's helping a sheikh put on his shirt and, khidmah. This is an adab. To respect your ustad. Today, we miss this thing. That's why I'm so much impressed by Allama Abu Ghuda, Abu Ghuda and the Brotherhood. Another influence on Abu Ghuda was that he became, when he was in Egypt, he, he had the opportunity, blessing of meeting Imam Hassan al-Banna Shaheed, Rahmullah, the founder of Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimun. Imam Hassan al-Banna was a mentor. He was a Sufi, practicing Sufi tasawwuf. He had also knowledge, ilm. So he was a murabbi. So again, he's another mentor that influenced Abu Ghuda was Imam Hassan al-Banna. He attended Banna's Tuesday lessons. Tuesdays he would, and a lot of people gather in the Ikhwan headquarters. And these lectures ignited the revival spirit because they say when Imam Hassan al-Banna spoke, as if light is coming shining forth from his mouth, words, pouring, this coming from the heart, a heart that is illuminated with piety and God consciousness. So light. So it really uh, impacted actually Abdul Fattah, Allama Abdul Fattah. So he admired his approach in mentoring and his vision that he had for the Islamic revival, and he joined. And then he served at the Muraqaba, general supervisor of the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria from 1972 to 1976, even though, he preferred to be a researcher, to be a writer, to be a teacher, but because it was he was forced to take on this responsibility. But of course, he stepped down when others were there to do that job. As soon as he could, he stepped down so that he could. Abu Ghudda, actually, this should be is a mistake there. Learn from Banna's approach the importance of respecting different opinions. This is one of the things that every Muslim scholar should understand. This is also coming from the Salaf Salih, as Imam Abu Udda teaches us. He wrote about it in his works. So, listening without bias and being fair in judgment. You see, Imam Shafi used to say, when you make a debate and dialogue with someone, no matter who is, which group of theology or fiqh he belongs to, assume, hope that you are right and the opponent is wrong, but also think he could be right and I could be wrong. Only in this way you can benefit. That exchange, the debate is fruitful. Otherwise, it's haram. Just simply argue for argument's sake. This is not the way of scholars. The same thing approaching with the Imam Abu Hanifa rahmullah, radiallahu anhu, I should say, radiallahu anhu, Shafi radiallahu anhu, Malik radiallahu anhu, Ahmad radiallahu anhu. I would say the same for Imam Abu Ghuda radiallahu anhu, encouraging cooperation on shared beliefs and understanding differences. Muslims need to practice it, especially in this critical time. So much disunity, and this our enemies have exploited, and they are working to enhance this disunity. A fight between Shia and Sunni, so that they can control, they can uh, exploit the Muslim Islamic resources, let them engage in the war against each other. And then they can occupy, they can colonize. This is what. Let us cooperate in what we agree upon and excuse each other in what we differ about. Of course, this is the slogan of Hassan Banna Rahmullah, but it is according to the research of Udda Allama Abu Ghuda. The original source of this quotation is Allama Rashid Rida Rahmullah radiallahu. Abu Ghuda, Allama Abu Ghuda laments that this essential Islamic principle that we should excuse each other for the things that we differ, but we cooperate on what we agree upon. You know, it's, this was a essential Islamic principle that devout scholars of the past used to stress, reiterate, but it's now neglected by the contemporary scholars. They are out to destroy each other, disunite, so that Muslims engage in fighting among themselves. Very beautiful observation is made. I myself experienced this thing in my 50 years, over 52 years of stay in North America. I have come across the same thing many times. But he put it very, very appropriately. Today, some Muslims harbor animosity towards others, refusing even to greet those with differing methodologies. I came across people with big beard entering the masjid. I would be there at the door. No salam. And one time I said salam, he did not reply. Said salam again, he did not reply. Said salam again, he did not reply. So that I faced him, I said, greeting first is a sunnah, but to reply is an obligatory duty. So many examples for this I have seen. So he put it, that's why bring it down, bring it here. So because we treat each other enemies, because we have different methodologies, we belong to different theological schools. It could be a Maturidi, Ashari, or Athari, or it could be Hanafi, it could be Shafi, it could be Maliki, Hanbali, or Salafi. Doesn't matter. This is Ummah Muhammad. وَلَا نُكَفِّرُ أَحَدًا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْقِبْلَةِ. This is the Aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that we don't declare anybody who face towards the Qibla and perform the prayer unless they deny. In the case of those who deny the finality of prophethood, that's a different case. Although our academics in the Western University want to tell us otherwise. No, that is not. Because, yes, when you deny one of the fundamental articles, tenets of faith, go out of the fold of Islam. So I recently came across a tape titled The Project of Tawheed Project. When they call Tawheed, the Tawheedul Asma'i was Sifat. I remember one person coming to me and saying, I have a big, album, explaining Tawheed al-Asma'i wa Sifat. Actually, the thrust of this entire course syllabus is to say Ash'ari, Maturidi, they are all gone out of the fold of Islam or heretics, and only those who follow the doctrine of, you know, so-called, they call it Salaf. It's not Salaf, actually Salaf. That's a different question altogether. Of course, so exactly the same, which claims that interacting with or visiting the people of the book undermines Tawheed, and that photography leads to polytheism, shirk. I was studying in Medina. We were injected with this that photography is shirk. So some of us, if we could do that, we would go and break the studio. And of course, you know what happened later? Shaykh Baz Rahmullah, who was who belonged to this kind of he offered this kind of opinion. Later on, his photo appeared all over the newspapers. And of course, now they understand that photography today is a medium of communication. So maqasid sharia, this is the trouble. They don't look at the maqsad of the sharia, they just literal interpretation. Of course, that's why exactly this kind of experience. While we cannot eliminate all disagreements, cultivating an etiquette of adab al-ikhtilaf can foster cooperation, respect. So he introduced two key works to guide Muslims, Allama Ghuda, so that guided to the proper conduct. One is he edited The Unity Among Muslims by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmahullah, radiallahu anhu, and wrote examples of the letters of the Salafi Imams and their scientific ethics. These works delved into Salaf principles of managing disagreements and maintaining warmth despite, he observes, these letters reflect the thoughts of scholars from the second century, highlighting their dialogue on doctrinal and jurisprudential matters, respecting differences, illustrating how the Salaf preserve that camaraderie, friendship, despite the differences, always committing to express the truth with affection and a spirit of fellowship. Dawa activities, inspired by Imam Hassan al-Banna during the 1940s, joined the Brotherhood. I already mentioned he actively disseminated Islamic teachings throughout Syria, speaking at mosque schools and community gatherings. Despite the wisdom and knowledge, he became a trusted guide and source of support for many. Allama Abu Ghudda mentored generations of preachers who valued his teaching deeply. In the mid-1960s, he sought to create an Islamic front by bringing together Aleppo scholars and the residents to demonstrate Muslim unity and strength. Unfortunately, the effort did not materialize because of lack of awareness and the crisis involving, you know. At the Khusrawiya Mosque, thousands of worshippers gathered. Abu Ghudda bravely tackled issues like dictatorship, secularism, and westernization. Even though he was threatened, you know, he said, I am ready to embrace martyrdom. I don't mind being killed as a Muslim. ولست أبالي حين أقتل مسلما على أي جنب لله مصرعي. I don't care as long as I die as a Muslim, where I lie down, where I slip and fall. Spending 11 months, he also spent 11 months in Turmo prison in jail, but of course he was released following 1967 war. Once free, he moved to Saudi Arabia to teach at universities there. Literary works. He authored and edited over 70 books, mainly on hadith science, because he was a great muhaddis and he had a lot of experience in isnad and chains and He edited works examined the early generation approach to knowledge also. His scholarship extended beyond jurisprudence and hadith to literature, language, and works like commentary on Abdul Fattah Busti's poem, a book on Arabic punctuation, and a guide to editing and indexing. He wrote on preserving authentic Islamic knowledge for future generations, encouraging them to persevere in the pursuit of knowledge and transmission of knowledge, emphasize the importance of proper etiquette. Some of the key works of Allama Abu Ghuda explores how Prophet Muhammad taught. This Prophet as a teacher, as a muallim, a ta'aleem, explores how Prophet Muhammad taught with empathy and practicality. It is all about his unique teaching style. The whole book is about that. Another book, Pages, Safahat, Sabr al-Ulama, Patience of Scholars enduring the hardship of learning. The book narrates the inspiring stories of scholars who went through tough times to learn, often fear starvation, famine, drought, no money at all. Even Allama Abu Ghudda experienced number of occasions, days during Ramadan, he could not eat, he could because his money, the help coming was delayed. So of course, and yet he braved all of these scholars who preferred knowledge over marriage. Another book deals with those reputable scholars like Imam Ibn Jarir, Ibn Taymiyyah, and others, who Imam Nawawi as well, who preferred to remain celibates because they chose marriage and they thought that they could not find time to devote to their spouses. Another precious work of Abu Buddha is the value of time. This must come out. All of these works should come out because the great wisdom for students of Islamic knowledge and ulama to learn dives into how scholars valued every second. And then, of course, Umara al Mu'minin for Hadith, Commanders of Faithful in Hadith, it introduces the outstanding Hadith scholars, fascinating biographical sketches, and the key roles in preserving Islamic traditions. Al-Isnad min ad-Deen, this is a very, very important, that Isnad, this is unique about Islam, وَلَوْلَا الْإِسْنَادُ لَقَالَ مَنْ شَاءَ مَا شَاءَ. Isnad is part of Deen, that's why they say, learn from those who have Isnad, who learn from the proper authorities. I had to say this. When a young man came without even passing an alim course, he wanted to go to a secular university. I said, "Inna hadha al-ilm deen." This is deen. So you should watch out where you are learning this deen. So of course, after you have learned, you can go and research and and even while doing so, you can explore. You can flatten out their arguments surely, but without that authentic knowledge, how are you going to do it? So very important that emphasizing this isnad. And of course then adab, from the etiquette bin adab al-Islam, key aspect of Islam. I think this thing book is already out, and I would urge everyone listening to me, get this book out and study it and embody those traits, these manners. Another important work, Muhasibi is a classic work on Tasawwuf. He edited it with a extensive commentary and notes, again as a guidebook, as a resource for the seekers of Islamic knowledge. Another book, Pages from the Page on the Patience of the Great Jurists. Okay, so all of this work showcase his incredible efforts in reviving classical Islamic scholarship. Thousands of students benefited from his knowledge all over universities in Damascus, Riyadh, India, Pakistan, Sudan, Yemen, and beyond. took part in many conferences and seminars across Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Qatar, Morocco, Sudan, India, Pakistan, Turkey, Indonesia, Afghanistan, Tashkent, Samarkand, Europe, America, Canada, and other places. The Sheikh Allama Abu Ghuda tirelessly spread knowledge and edited rare books which weakened his eyesight. He had eye surgery, of course, because always reading, carrying book on the go. So when you strain your eyes so much, it's effective. Eye surgery in Riyadh in December, but his health declined afterward. He passed away. Actually, the news of the death of his brother was also affected. His body was flown to Medina, where it was laid to rest. Of course, the janazah was performed in Riyadh first, and then the body was flown to be buried in Baqi after janazah prayer in the Prophet's mosque. What a great honor! The end of, I would say, this life, this end of a chapter in the tradition of the pious scholars. Lofty aspirations, effective time management, steadfast commitment to knowledge. This is a great legacy. Testimonials, great testimonials. Sheikh Abdul Halim Mahmoud Al Arif Billah. I'm, I was so impressed by this Sufi master, mentor, and Sheikh Al Azhar. Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda was an exceptional scholar whose profound knowledge of hadith and fiqh set him apart. His meticulous work in the field of Islamic sciences reflects the depth of his dedication and commitment to reviving authentic teachings of Islam. His legacy is one that we at Al Azhar are proud to acknowledge, although he is a graduate of Al Azhar. Sheikh Muhammad Mutawalli Sha'rawi, and a great Mufassir, scholar of the century. Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda was a beacon of knowledge and virtue. His scholarly works are invaluable contributions to Islamic knowledge, particularly in Hadith and Islamic jurisprudence. His life was a manifestation of piety, humility, and service to Islam, which is why he is deeply respected in scholarly circles, including here at Al-Azhar. Mustafa Sawai, we mentioned him, great scholar, great mujahid, says he is a living example of the sincerity of scholars. His scholarship, humility, and dedication to the service of Islam are clear in his works and life. He stands as a model for all those seeking to follow Islamic knowledge path. Sheikh Abu Zuhra, another great eminent scholar, says Abu Ghudda had a mastery over the classical Islamic sciences that few could match. He is virtually unsurpassed. His research and editing of rare manuscripts provided a tremendous service to the Ummah. Scholarly rigor combined with his upright character made him one of the true inheritors of the prophetic legacy. Allama Yusuf al-Qaradawi is one of his close friends. Luminary, called him as luminary contemporary Islamic scholarship. He combined traditional Islamic knowledge with a profound understanding of modern challenges. His influence and his many students worldwide testify to the depth of his knowledge and the sincerity of his character. Indian scholar Kandalawi Zakaria Sheikh Khan Abdul Fattah is from the foremost scholars of hadith in our time. He has revived forgotten treasure. He's a mentor, actually, Abu Ghudda's mentor in India. Islamic scholarship through his careful editing and publishing of important works. Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan Bhuti, the Syrian scholar who was Shaheed. Abdul Fattah is not only a scholar of hadith but also a beacon of guidance in the Islamic world. His humility, character, and scholarly rigor make him one of the most respected scholars of his generation. Sheikh Tandawi, another Sheikh, Grand Sheikh of Al-Azhar. Abu Ghudda was one of the most distinguished scholars of his time. His knowledge, especially in hadith, and his dedication to preserving Islamic knowledge were unmatched. Where Al-Azhar hold his works and contributions in the highest regard, this influence continues to be left felt in Islamic education worldwide. Now, coming to the wisdom, is full of wisdom, so much wisdom scattered throughout his works. That's why I recommend that all of his works should come out, except maybe technical works. Time is the most valuable asset one can have. It serves as a capital or capital in life. Wasting time equates to wasting life. But using it wisely allows us to gain knowledge, achieve goals, and find success and fulfillment in all aspects of life. Journey to knowledge isn't lined with roses and blooms. Instead, it's a path fraught with challenges and difficulties. It demands unwavering patience and determination. I remember recommending students from here to universities in Al Azhar and Medina, but they stay there 6 months and come back. Why? Because they could not. They didn't have this. They thought that the easy air condition and all this amenity they're expecting there. The quest for knowledge should be guided by humility and etiquette. Arrogance leads to failure. Humility unlocks all knowledge and virtue. Acquiring knowledge goes beyond gathering information and memorizing facts. It's a journey that shapes a faithful and committed character, beginning with understanding and culminating in adab and piety. The path of knowledge is long and arduous, and those who tread it need strong determination and patience. Another important thing, it's not a private possession that you only impart it when you get money. Money, money, money. This is something our scholars become greedy. So, qurra, greedy. This is unfortunately, I'm not attacking them at all, but of course, this has become, a trap. This is a fitna. So this is something I need to learn, and our scholars and students of Islamic knowledge. So it's not a private possession; it's a trust, and we must spread and pass it on freely as much as possible for children. Whoever thinks they have perfected knowledge has begun the ignorance. They are ignorant. Knowledge is an ocean with no shore. Knowledge is of no benefit without sincerity. It's not right to seek knowledge in order to boast and of course outdo others. I am a better speaker, I'm a better scholar, I'm better this, better that. Every scholar draws from a source and has their own method and approach, and the wise person takes from each what they see as correct. This is the wisdom that he applied. That's why he could benefit so many sources, and of course at the same time he did not. Prophet Sallallahu blindly imitated anyone. The Prophet exemplified the true essence of a teacher and educator. His mission extended beyond simply imparting information. He aimed to inspire a deep love for knowledge, action within people's hearts. His vision was cultivating a generation of seekers of knowledge who could carry forward his legacy. Because scholars inherit the legacy of prophets, bearing the responsibility not only to teach but also to guide and educate people, tarbiyah and tazkiyah toward the right path. What value knowledge hold if it's not generally for the sake of Allah? Without sincerity, knowledge serves as evidence against the holder. Hujjatun laka aw alayk. Al-Quran hujjatun lak. Quran can be a pleader, an attorney pleading your case before Allah, or it can be an attorney prosecutor. A successful teacher patiently tolerates students' mistakes and re-explains information in various ways. That was the method of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That book he has about the Prophet's teaching methods. It should be out there for the benefit of everybody. Reviving Islamic heritage goes beyond simply gathering and publishing books. It involves reconstructing thought based on solid foundations. Is another valuable insight. Religious renewal does not mean abandoning our heritage. It involves reinvigorating its essence and updating its meaning to fit the context. As Imam Shawalullah said, it's time for us to clothe, to present it in a new cloth of reason and argument and evidence. Neglecting the chain of transitional university compromises the protection, Ummah's protection. I did not about, even though he learned from many, many scholars, he says, I did not adopt my teacher's opinions. Even though he was a student of Kausari was critically more Ibn Taymiyyah, but Abu Ghuda was an admirer of Ibn. He edited and published one of his works, as I already mentioned. So he said, I did not imitate them because they were my instructors. No, I embraced what I found to be accurate because he exercised a critical judgment and followed what was correct and persuasive. Islamic jurisprudence is not merely a set of rigid rules, but a dynamic method that authentically and with a spirit of renewal addresses real issues. Scholars who have their names written in the walls of history did so through patience and sacrifice.